Hello, this is Helen Schaefer, bringing out the artist in you.
When Dina came up with a totally awesome challenge, Helen and I knew exactly what we would be doing. So I took my camera, went out into the garden, and took a picture of 2 clay toad houses. Our entry into this challenge will be 2 clay toad houses set into a group of marigolds with a toad lurking in the front, deciding whether to enter. So here we go, starting with a sketch.
While looking at your reference photo, begin by sketching the clay toad house with the toad sitting on the top. Color this in several layers.
Use a clean cotton swab on the toad house in order to distribute the pigment in the grooves of the rough watercolor paper, thereby making the surface nice and smooth.
For this demonstration, I used a very heavy 300-pound Arches Watercolor Rough paper. I wanted it to be rough because of the warts on the toad and the roughness of the toad house. Also, I plan to use my Caran Supra Soft Colored Watercolor Pencils because water would be used to activate the color, and I needed to have a sturdy paper. Having this in mind left me with a very textured surface that had to be filled with color. Watercolors or your Supra Soft pencils will fill in the spaces of the paper. There are lots of spaces in this rough paper, and it really, if you use just colored pencils, it's absolutely impossible to fill in. So watercolor helps with this. When you do the background, begin with watercoloring the foliage. Be very careful about the lights and the darks. Once you get the lights covered up, you can't ever get that back. Then use your colored pencils to put in the rest. Ask, why is only 1/2 of the scene and the paper work done? Well, what it boils down to is Helen became lazy. At first, in the planning stage, that was when we heard about the challenge, then 2 houses were planned, and they were chosen to be put into the scene. But they were chosen by a very overly ambitious artist who loves a challenge. Remember, she thought that this was going to be a cinch. But after difficulties were had with the first house, it took longer than I thought it was going to take. And anyway, I decided to change the plan and not include the second house that we had originally thought we were going to put in. So, laziness set in. Have you ever been on Lazy Street?
This was just good planning. You needed room for the toad.
That's for sure. While in Florida, many different artistic adventures were taken on by me. Among them, pottery captured my interest. Throwing clay kept me captivated for hours, 6 days a week, while Dietrich, an avid golfer, did his thing on the golf course. During my pottery years, after making lots of cups and molds, the idea of building a toad house came to mind. After all, toads are very valuable to the environment. They eat a countless number of dreaded mosquitoes that lurk around in our yard in Iowa. If the toad house will help shade the toads, I thought, go for it. So here is one of my toad houses. I made 3 of them, but decided to use only one of them for the totally awesome challenge. When Dina announced her totally awesome challenge, I perked up, and I knew immediately that the toad houses would be the main feature of my entry. Think about it. This scene is a little slice of nature at its best, with the marigolds growing in the sunshine and the moss and the fungi growing in the shade. Iowa, having very fertile soil, is known for its rich farmland. It seems to grow plants and even fungi at the drop of a seed or a spore. Everything grows well, even toadstools. Did you happen to notice the toadstool growing next to the toad house? Well, when seeing this, wouldn't you think that the toad would see it too and marvel about it? Now ask yourself, will the toad take his seat on the toadstool? Now layer and color everything with various colored pencils. Faber Castell Polychromos were used in this drawing for the colored pencils. This is actually a scene from the garden where we do have a lot of marigolds. And what we did is we placed the toad houses in the garden and then took a photo. Here you can see the toad that I sketched, because I'm going to put a real toad in here, and when you do your painting then you can do the same thing. Toads are very squashed together. A frog is more apart. It's more long and narrow, and a toad is squatty.
Now, the reference for this toad came from Pixabay.com.
And I sketched it from a photo from the...
from Pixabay.
Right.
And that's what you see up above in that white piece of paper.
The Q-tip. The Q-tip doesn't have anything on it. It's just a plain, clean Q-tip.
To define the eyes.
The rag is used to get some of the color away so the toad sticks out a little bit more. He really should blend in the environment. He really shouldn't stick out. But we don't know about how the toad is feeling. I think he's feeling a little grumpy right now, because with his one eye sees that toad house back there, and he's thinking, what the heck is that? Is that for me? I can read the word toad on there.
Here she's starting to fill in the eyes.
Dietrich doesn't like all the fantasy I use.
No, I do like the fantasy. It makes a good story.
Oh, okay. Well, that's good. I left the eyes for the end because you know, the eyes are a little bit more difficult to draw, and I had problems with that leg back there too, and with the feet. Everything's a problem. That's how toads are.
They're totally awesome.
Right. That's right.
little bird next to the toad.
Did you see it was a bird?
Yes.
Oh, you didn't say anything.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Look
All
at
right.
that little character.
Yeah.
How he's coming about, huh? Yeah.
I kind of smudged him up afterwards. I didn't think that it was a bird.
I know you did, and I wasn't too happy about that.
Well, you didn't tell me that you noticed saw that it was a bird.
Yeah, sure.
Every year when we go back to Iowa, to our home in the spring, the toad houses are carefully placed in the garden, waiting for the toads. The marigolds are welcoming the toad and enticing him with their cheerful yellows and golds, making the surroundings pleasant and comfortable so that he might enter the toad house. If you look at him, he looks a little proud, he looks happy, but he does look a little grumpy. And the reason he looks grumpy, I think, because if you look at his eye, the eye on the right, he's actually eyeing the toad house. And what he sees is a pinkish house with a fake toad sitting on the top. And he thinks that the toad is laughing and mocking him. Can you imagine? The question is, will he enter? Leave your answer below in the comments and tell me if he entered the toad house. Thanks. Bye-bye.